and stuff. But all right. So again, thank you so much, Candy, for taking the time today. I'm Jessica Weaver. I am a wealth advisor, best-selling author, and a financial blogger. And with me, I have Candy Rose, who has a book coming out this year. So exciting, Candy. How has the book process been for you?
It's been amazing. I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. It's been really therapeutic, to be honest. I love that fact of how therapeutic it's been, because a lot of the things that I talk about is overcoming adversity and overcoming really, really rock bottom times. And so having to relive all of that it was painful and healing at the same time. And I'm so glad that it's almost done. I'm just like, okay. And if anybody wants to know the full story, they can go read it. I love to talk about my story, but um, just all the details. And as you know, you're an author, so yeah, you go real deep into writing when you're thinking and writing versus speaking.
It's like birthing a baby, and I also kind of felt like I was walking around naked because, especially when you're very vulnerable in a book, and I'm guessing you seem very authentic person and you share a lot in your book, which we're going to go into, but people know so much about you, and it's not like they heard it directly from your mouth. They read it in the book. So you don't realize how much people know about you when you're talking with them. And then they'll
Yeah.
ask me questions. I'm like, oh, that's right. You must have read my book, because there are things I put in the book that I didn't openly talk about.
Mhm.
But something about putting them into the book gave me a sense of power and
Mhm.
wanting other women to be able to relate to it and resonate with it. So, Kenny, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background before we could probably talk about that forever? But who are you? How did you get here? You have an incredible story. I only know a little bit about it, and I would love to hear more.
Well, the background is pretty much my entire story. I used to go and talk about how successful I was and all this, with becoming a very successful real estate investor, being a college dropout and having my background, which is what my book is all about. But then I realized that, that was just a really small portion of what I was speaking. Like, my success it's great. It's my success, but that's not really who makes me. And for a long time, I just talked about, being a successful real estate investor, because I started investing full time in 2007, part time in 2003. I worked through the Great Recession and I made a lot of money, and now I'm able to travel the world. I'm a full time single mom, and I have properties that are fully furnished rentals. They're kind of like Airbnb on steroids. I rent to corporate or sports agencies, the movie industry sometimes. But what I realized is I was always starting with that. So I was always afraid to tell people what my past was, because I didn't want them to judge me. And so I didn't tell anybody for a long time. They just knew me as this person that had a great work ethic, had made this unbelievable success. I was a single mom and I loved God, and that's all people really knew. And after that, I just decided, you know what, I don't want to hide who I am anymore. I was always afraid people were going to find out who I was in my past and what I did. And I thought, like, they weren't going to respect me anymore or like me, or they were going to look down on me, or they were going to judge me. And that's why I started writing my book, because I thought, you know what, we need to talk about our life and how we got to where we are, what drives us to be successful, right? But so many people just leave that part out. It's like, oh, they're just successful, they must have had a very easy road, is what people think.
Somebody gave it to them, they inherited it, or they got a leg up somehow. You've said success a lot, and this is actually one of my first questions was, what does this success look like to you? What does it
That is
feel
such a good question. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, I'm in my car. I am a
like?
single mom. I do work from home, and this is my quiet place. Jessica and I were talking about this before, that we got to get some places sometime to just get the peace and quiet that we need. So, um, I didn't plan it like this, but this is part of what I talk about. Like, just do it anyways, even if it's not what you had expected. I had expected to be in my office and have this nice place, but just adjust and make it happen.
Go with it.
Um,
Go on the fly.
this is like this is I ask people this a lot.
Hmm.
Success to me isn't just money. For so long I chased money.
Yes.
um I stripped for 6 years, um and I always went for the money because I wanted the money, like I wanted what I thought the money could bring to me. I was engaged to my daughter's father, who was a multimillionaire, and I left him after she was one, and I left him,
Hmm.
and we've never heard from him again. That's part of my story. That was in 2011, but um he had everything. He gave me everything. I had made money myself doing stripping for many years when I was younger, and then at some point I had met him, and I still was like, we had the mansions and the cars and the Gucci this and the Prada that, and I mean all of it. And what I realized is like money never made me happy, even when I was making it on my own, because I was doing something that I hated. And so now to me, success is being able to spend time with my daughter, being able to spend quality time with my daughter, being able to travel, being able to help other people. And that's why I speak. Like, I speak and write, and I haven't made a dime, but I've never felt the way that I feel when I'm talking about my story, because I know it's helping people. Like, I never felt that when I made the money investing in real estate. And so for me, you know, success is being at peace, being at peace, being happy,
Yes.
not settling for a life, not being miserable in a relationship. Like, being happy with yourself first.
Hmm.
And I'm a big proponent of making sure that yourself is happy first. And then if that's good, then you can get out there in the dating world. I've been single for quite a while. I'm not going to talk on relationship issues, but I'm happy now. I'm happy. I would welcome somebody into my life, but success is being happy. It's not about the money. Yes, the money is the vehicle sometimes to help me get to the places that I want to be, or maybe traveling and stuff. But, I'd rather do something where I didn't make as much money, but it fulfilled me, like writing and speaking now, versus going after the money, making all the money, and being miserable and not being able to spend time with my kid and do the things that I want to do, and be stressed because I'm not enjoying my life. So it's
Huge.
all of it. It's all of it. It's not just
You're
money.
such an alignment with the women in our community. I remember last year we had an event and we were talking about what is success, and we just kept trying to build on it. It was security, it was um, independence, it was freedom, it was choices, opportunities. But the last piece was peace, peace of mind, exactly what you said. So when you said that, that hit home for me, and I think all the women. Yeah, we're chasing something and we don't even realize we're just chasing to being able to breathe and to
Mhm.
go after. If we want to take that trip with your daughter, if you want to be able to shut down from work for a month, or to try something new, or to have an opportunity out there. And one thing you brought up,
Absolutely.
we talk a lot about, is you come to a point in your life, for me, money, it can buy you stuff or it can buy you time.
Mhm.
And you made that switch, right? Stuff. You talked about the mansions, the cars, the vacations, the Gucci, the designer stuff. And now it's time with your daughter, time
Mhm.
to travel, and time to give back,
Mhm. Yes, absolutely.
which is huge.
When my whole life sort of kind of went into a tailspin in the beginning of, I grew up, I'll kind of like backtrack of who I am, because I grew up in a loving home. I went to church, I played sports. I was a good kid, and I was happy. And then I got to high school and I was bullied for 2 years, really bad. And it got so bad that they ended up vandalizing my property. My mom ended up taking them to court. There were felony charges. It was a big craziness. This was in my second year of being bullied. And I was by a bunch of girls, didn't like me. Um, And after that, after that incident, after 2 years, I just was kind of broken. I just stopped playing sports, stopped going to church. I told my mom I was going to drop out of school or she could switch me to another school. I didn't care at that time. I'd lost my happiness and my innocence. I'd lost my innocence. I had never had sex. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I mean, I'm a freshman and a sophomore, and I'm just getting attacked by girls, and the girls that I knew started jumping in with them, because that's how cliques work. And it really hurt me. And so I ended up going to another school. By the time I got to that school, I started drinking and doing drugs and boys and skipping school, and I barely graduated. And by the time I was 19, I was arrested by the DEA. I mean, my life took a quick spin because of my decisions. I was arrested by the DEA. My ex-boyfriend was a big drug dealer. I didn't know he was like the big fish. I knew we were doing drugs, we were going to raves, we were
Mhm.
doing ecstasy. I was getting out of my zone because I think of the pain that I had gone through. I talk about,
Yes.
turning points in your life of what might have been that trigger to cause you to go down the wrong route. And and that was my trigger. But then after that trigger, I ended up making a bunch of bad decisions. And so after that, I ended up stripping. And by the time I was 23, I got rearrested by the DEA because they were closing in on the case of my ex. And at that time, um, they put me in jail. I was in there for 3 weeks, and they were going to charge me with 20 years conspiracy in prison. So here I am, 23 years old. I'd gone out actually between this time and started learning how to become a real estate investor. I was like searching around for things. I had started a promotions and event planning company. Now, mind you, I stripped for 6 years. So I was heavily into drugs and drinking, and I didn't value myself. I didn't care. And I got into all this trouble. And when I got out when I was 23, at that time, I had actually bought a condo about 6 months before that. And this was during 2003, right, of the no, this is before the bust. So it was kind of like a no doc, no income loan. So I was able to get it and able to buy it and pay for it with the money I was making from stripping. And so I was trying to get my life in order. I'd gone into some of these schools for computers to learn how to do computers. I was a college dropout. I was just trying to figure out, what can I do? What can
Mhm.
I do to make my life better? Well, now I just gotten out of jail and I had a felon on my record. And
Oh
I was
my
like, well, shit,
gosh. Yeah.
I can nobody's gonna hire me now because now I'm a felon, and I've been, what do I have to offer anybody? Um,
Real
and so
quick,
I went back to stripping.
are you kind of on your own? Do you have support in any realm? Are you
Yeah,
making these decisions on your own, trying to figure this all out by yourself?
yeah. I had no support. I hid everything from my family. In
Yeah.
fact, when I was 19, I got arrested. I never told my parents because I was dumb and naive. And my boyfriend at the time told me he was going to take care of it, and I didn't want them to know because I didn't want to get in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
Well, at 23 years old, I went home to visit my family because my oldest brother was graduating, and that's when I got rearrested by the DEA. They actually came to my parents' house and burst down the door and shackled me in chains with my waist and my feet in chains, my
Jeez.
hand in chains. My mom had no idea what was going on because I never told her. My
What was
stepdad,
going through your mind?
I mean, I knew they were coming back to get me. I had already been arrested by the DEA, but my parents didn't know. None of them knew. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I couldn't say anything because I'm getting read my rights. I'd already been through
Jeez.
this twice now. Now, this is my third time getting arrested. I got arrested at 19. I got arrested at 20 for underage drinking. Now I'm rearrested at 23. So I have a great track record going on at this point in my life, right? Um, and I told them, just call dad, get an attorney. And that was huge. That was
Mhm.
huge. Now, I tell you that story because being locked up for 3 weeks and being threatened that my freedom was almost taken away for 20 years
Yeah.
really made me appreciate life
Mhm.
in general. I appreciate like a good bed now. I appreciate good food. I appreciate having a pillow to sleep on. I appreciate having a movie to watch. Like my appreciation for things changed a lot at that point. But I didn't get back on track at that point. I wish I could
Okay.
say that. I didn't. And so
Like, was
after
it
that, I
turning point?
went.
It was kind of like the workings of a turning point in your life.
No, not really. I didn't really
No.
change my life around after that. I mean, I ended up going back stripping. I ended up meeting a guy, another guy, and fell in love with this guy, and ended up he ended up becoming an abuser.
Oh,
So I was abused for 4 years, and during that time, I had bought another place. So in between all these things that had happened, I had always gravitated towards real estate. It was just
okay.
something that I could do. I learned how to do it. You didn't. And one of the things that I love about real estate investing is that you can be any color, you can be a male or female, you can have any background. Real estate does not discriminate, and that's the one thing I love about it. It was my vehicle to get out of where I was. It was the only thing that I could do to figure out how can I make as much money as I'm making taking my clothes off
Hmm.
and keeping my clothes on and having a respectable job. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to be respected. I wanted to prove
Mm.
to my two fathers, my dad and my stepdad, that I wasn't a fuck up. I had so much shame of who I was from stripping that I just wanted to make something of myself. And it was mainly to impress my two dads. I'm not going to lie. Now I don't feel that way, but at the time that was what it was. I was trying to get the significance that I needed in my life, the approval from my two fathers. And so I gravitated toward that. So I bought another house after, in between that time of my
Okay.
condo and then meeting my abuser. And then we moved to North Florida together, and I bought another house and I was trying to renovate it. And in between all of this, the abuse kept getting worse and worse. Started off as I thought we were fighting. I
Yeah.
thought we were fighting. I didn't know. I was in love with this guy. He was my best friend. We knew each other for years before we started going out. We were
Wow.
friends. We went to church together. Like we waited
And
to
you
have
had no
sex. Like
idea.
no, I had no idea. I mean, I fell hard for him, and he ended up it started we started fighting, and then it turned into belt jabs. Then it was just straight up him attacking me for my past. So I had a really hard time with that because he would call me really dirty names, one being a dirty used up stripper, which broke my heart because he knew I already felt bad. And that's what abusers
Yeah.
do. They take the thing that you're most insecure about and they use it against you, and you don't
They
know
hone in
because
on
you're
that.
young. you
Hmm.
know you just don't know.
And
And
like you said,
so
you're looking for approval and love and to fit in.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
wow.
So
So
and
how
then
did you break that cycle? How did you get out?
um well, I tried to leave him about I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10
Oh,
times.
jeez.
um they say the average time it takes to leave an abuser is about 7 times. And because we love them, like what we feel as the one. I was a victim, I'm a survivor now. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
at the time, I loved him. What I felt was real love, but what I didn't know is that he didn't love me back. What he was doing to me wasn't love. I
Right.
thought we were in love, but I realized after the fact that love doesn't act that way. Love is patient, love is kind,
Hmm.
love does not envy, love does not keep a record of wrongs, right?
But
Love
when
does
you're in
not
it,
anger
it's
easily.
hard to see that.
Right, right. And so after about 4 years, it was 2007,
Hmm.
and I was just getting done renovating this house that I bought for us to live in. and I was going to flip it. I was going to make money, and I was going to start my real estate investing career. Um, and we went through. He threatened to kill me. I thought he was going to kill me one night, and we I barely got out of the house like alive. Like it had turned into physical abuse. I mean, he would grab me and push me up against the wall and throw
Oh my gosh. And of course, you freeze right at this time.
me.
Oh, there you are. I'm like on the edge of my seat and you freeze. Oh, hold on, Candy. You there, Candy? Oh no! What a cliffhanger. There you are. Ooh. Okay, Candy. So we lost you. You were leaving the house. I'm guessing it was the final time from your ex who
Yes.
abused you.
Yes. He had threatened that he was gonna kill me that night,
Jeez.
and this he had never said that before, and so
Wow.
um, when he said it, it was just a very eerie feeling because his eyes went black, and it was like he was gone.
Ooh.
Like the guy that I had once fallen in love with was just no longer there. It was just the shell of a man that I knew one time, and his whole demeanor changed. He couldn't see me,
Like he just
and
became this dark person. Just,
yeah, it was
oh
like
my
evil.
gosh.
I
Yeah.
think that's the only way I can describe it, is like evil just filled the room, and I thought like he was blocking me from leaving and telling me that he was going to kill me. And I was crying and telling him, please, I was calling his name, trying to get him to look at me, to stop, because I knew
Snap
if
out
he
of
touched
it.
me, he
Yeah.
was going to kill me that night. So I luckily, I believe it was some sort of divine intervention, because I was able to get close enough to him, and he had stopped yelling at me, and he was sort of staring at me, but like in a blank stare, like he wasn't really looking at me, and he had his hand up against the wall, and I was just getting closer and closer, just telling him that I loved him, and please don't kill me. And um, I had to make a run for it, and I ran underneath his hand because he had it up like this against the wall, and he could have easily have grabbed me, and he's done that many times before. But for some reason this time he didn't grab me. He just stood in place, and it was enough time for me to get through the door and run out the front door, and I
Oh
ran for
my
miles. I had no
gosh.
shoes on, and he didn't come after me. He's a really fast runner too. So I believe divine intervention stepped in and saved my life that night, because um, it was just very bizarre and eerie. And the fact that he let me go and didn't run after me was, he had never done that before. Um, and after that, I was still in love with him, not gonna lie. But I knew that my life was in jeopardy, and if I went back, then I was gonna die. So I made the decision to leave him that time. And he begged me, said he would go to counseling with me, all the things I'd ever asked him. He'll go to counseling, he'd go to church with me, he'd do anything. He realized he messed up, and it was like, I don't trust you anymore. I think that you will kill me if I go back to you. Like, not I think, I knew he would. And so
That's what
um,
helped you to stay strong. And
it's honestly, after that I left him, and it was really, really hard.
mhm.
I ended up finding a counselor. I went through a very serious, like a serious depression. I contemplated suicide. And between that time, the
Mhm.
the market was changing. So the house that I had gotten ready to renovate and sell
Yeah.
was now $140,000 less than what I purchased it for. I had $280,000 into the home. It was worth 140,000. The guy that I was in love with was, I mean, I had to leave him. The guy that I loved with all my heart wouldn't stop hurting me, so I had to leave him. And my house is in foreclosure. I've got nothing. I've got a record. I've got no job. I've got no money. Now I'm, I'm broken. I'm spiritually, not spiritually. Yes. I had really reached rock bottom. I mean, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually,
Right.
all of it was just drained.
Exhausted too.
Financially, I
Yeah.
was just drained. And I just thought, I think this is it. I don't think that there's any way my life could ever get any better at that time. I really thought at that time that was it. And I did contemplate that. But I remember I had lost so much weight. I had lost I'd gone from like a size 8 to a size 2. So
Wow.
women, you know what those sizes
Yeah.
are. I had
Yeah.
lost like 25 pounds and my face was so skinny. I couldn't eat and I was just sleeping like 18, 19, I don't know, 20 hours a
So
day.
you, yeah,
I just
serious
could
depression.
serious depression. And it was just something at that time, was like, and I had just been beaten up. I mean, he told me I was
Yeah.
worthless for so long. And I just had thought I am worthless. Like nobody is going to want me. I don't have anything to offer anybody. Like he was telling me the truth. At least that's what I thought, and um, but something inside me was like this. I remember thinking, okay, I'm done. And then I went to sleep. And the next day I woke up and it was just something inside me was like, nope, this is not the end of the road for you. You got to get up. You got to fight. You need to realize that you are loved and that, you know, all that stuff that he's ever told you is a lie. And so I had to fight my desires to want to go back to him with what I knew and to be true. And for
You're thinking
some
very
reason,
rationally, despite all
well,
that, for
I
you
think
to
like
keep that
again,
perspective.
it was an intervention. I believe it was a divine intervention. I
Yeah.
was born again about 6 months after I left him. I
Good.
had to dig real deep, and that's when I actually got my real estate investing career started. I
Mhm.
I got up one day out of just being depressed and losing so much weight, and I went to this closet in our room and pulled out these books, this seminar that I had been to, the real estate investing seminar. And I was like, okay, this is it. Sink or swim, live or die. I'm going to either save my house, I'm going to save my life, or, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I pulled the books out and just started going through them. And I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. Went and got this little signs. We buy houses. Like I went and bought the little yellow signs. I wrote in a black magic marker, we buy houses, put my number on there, had all my stuff printed out, all the questions to ask them. And I was like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know if this is going to work. But like, I was so desperate
Yeah.
to get something going. And I was so desperate not to go back to the club because I had quit the club. And I said I was never going back. And I considered going back. I needed the money. My house was in foreclosure, but I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going back. I'm going to make something of my life. I was 25 at the time. And
It's young. That's a very young age
yeah, very
to
young.
start a
And
business by yourself in real estate.
yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was really hard. But within 45 days of doing exactly what the book had told me to do, I had put a house under contract and flipped it and made $7,000. So I was like, oh wow, this stuff works. I never looked back. I mean, and that was full time actually in 2007. Sorry, I think I was,
I just have to pause
yeah.
for a moment because despite all the odds, despite probably the fear, the insecurity, everything you were dealing with, you took action despite all that.
Yeah.
You went for it because so many people get stuck in that survival mode. And I see it now, especially after the pandemic. But despite all that, you took action and you got a result. And that probably was, and I say this to them, that's the best way to build your confidence is to take action and see success firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to keep
Absolutely.
taking those same steps. So you
Yeah.
followed a method, a strategy, it worked, and then that probably just fueled your desire and just built up this excited energy to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think, you just have to get to a point of where you're just so disgusted with where you are in life. Um, and think about it, right? If you're, okay, there's this one saying that I love, it's kind of difficult to say, but it's people change when pain of same is greater than pain of change.
Yes.
So people change when pain of being the same, doing the same thing over and over and over, is more painful than actually the pain of changing, because we know that change is hard. And I've always held on to that. It's like, it's so true. I hate organizing and administrative stuff, but when it gets so bad that I can't stand it anymore in my office, I'm like, I'm in there for like 2 days, and I'm like, I feel better. Or, if somebody goes in and they're like, they're feeling bad about themselves. Like when they're finally at a point in their life where they're like, I don't want to be unhealthy anymore. I'm going to make a change. Right. It was like that for me. It was like, I'm so miserable that if I don't do anything, it's never going to get better. And in fact, it might get worse. I might not even be here. That's how bad it was for me. So yeah, you have to get to a point in your life. And that's what I talk about a lot, is like, do baby steps, take
Mm-hmm.
little tiny baby steps.
Yes.
And I tell people this all the
100%.
time. Like I, after I left my abuser, I was like in therapy. Like I was in therapy, but physical therapy. Like I had to learn to sort of walk again. I had to learn to go to the gym again. Like I started a little bit, like I would go walk on the beach, and it was like, it was draining for me to just get out of the house. But at least if I got out of the house and I went and walked on the beach, or I would just go to church and just sit in the back and listen, or just little tiny things to do the things that I needed to do. Well, but with my making money, that was like, I had no other way that I could figure out how to make money other than going back to dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, look, this works. I know it works. I've seen people that have made this money. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it. Why can't I do it? And I did exactly what it said. And by the way, the phone didn't start ringing the first time. I put these signs out. I went and put them out at 4:00 in the morning. I got up before all the cars were out, put them out. No calls. Nobody called. And then I did it again the following week, put them out. No calls. And I was like, this has to work. This has to work. Why is this working? Like, it has to work. And I did it for a third time. And after that, the phone started ringing. So the thing I think that people need to understand is, just because you're taking action and you don't see anything happening doesn't mean that's not going to happen. It's just testing you. It's like life is testing you to see how bad you want it. If you're in business, which you have a lot of business followers, just because you fail doesn't mean you suck at your business. I lost money on 2 houses. And now the dog's going
No way.
crazy. But out of all of the deals that I've ever done,
Yeah.
I've flipped hundreds of homes. I didn't stop after I failed. And I had people kicking me down when I failed. I had my family telling me, you know what, maybe you need to go get a real job. Like, maybe this just isn't safe enough. Maybe it's too stressful for you, And so I just kept taking action, doing the things that I could do, even when I was failing.
Mm-hmm.
Taking action, doing it again, figuring it out. I have no college degree. All I have is perseverance. Like, that's my thing.
It's true. It's how
Just keep going.
committed you are
Yeah.
to
So
that
action
goal.
is huge.
And the persistence, focus, determination is what brings you through and stuff. Because we were on a tangent there about taking action, despite, like you said, committing to something, and you'll reap the benefits if
Yeah,
you're patient, right?
absolutely.
I know you're religious. God always blesses you on His time. It's not on our time. We always want it right away. Give me it right away. But it's
Yeah.
when we were meant to have it is when it comes to us. I think it's when we're best positioned to receive it.
Yeah, and I have to say that my faith, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without my faith. I wasn't strong enough to do it on my own. None of us are. The only thing that I believe that saved me so many times was my faith, and going through all those difficult times. To get to a point where I don't have any anger in my heart right now, and all the feelings that I went through, I had to have something higher than me to help me get there. And so I have to give credit where credit is due. I am a Christian. I'm born again, and I love God. I'm not perfect by any means. I still do things that aren't very Christian in some people's eyes, and I curse or say bad words. My favorite word is the F word. Like I had a little bit of a rough past. I'm not perfect. so,
But that doesn't
but the
matter.
faith is where it really, you know, really helped me to grow. And being in the real estate industry, in the real estate investing industry, or anybody else that's a real estate agent or an entrepreneur, that when you go through really hard times, sometimes you're like, maybe this just isn't what I'm meant to do. Like, maybe this is the end of the road for me. Like, maybe I suck at this, right? Like, you just sort of like, well, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and
And
insecurity pops up and you can run with it or you
yeah,
can learn how to
yeah.
shut it down.
And you have to, you have to sort of, and for me, I had to pray. It was like, okay, God, if you don't want me to be in this industry anymore, then okay, I'm done. Like I would stay up so many nights uh, through my career because it's stressful running. I was a project manager. I was a project manager for 10 years. I'm the investor. I'm the person that goes out, puts all the deals together,
My
oversees the
gosh.
projects,
Yeah.
sells the projects, everything. And so it gets stressful. And I
Sure.
just remember going, all right, if you just don't want me to be in this profession anymore, just take it away. And then like the next day we'd get an offer and then we'd close. And then I'd be like, oh, it's not that bad. I don't know what I was so stressed about.
That probably happens to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as, you don't quit and you just do everything that you can do in your power. And then after that, at some point, you give it over to God. But you gotta lead a good life too. Let's if the listeners don't believe in God, they believe in karma, maybe.
Hmm.
You can't be a bad person and go out there and expect good things to happen for you. I mean, you might get over on some people. You might go, I've had people scam me out of money and stuff, and you might get over on some people, but like you're not going to be a successful person if you're not living life right. I mean, if you're cheating people, you're not going to be in that profession for long. At some point, you're going to get caught. You're not going to have the peace. You got to be a good person too in order to be successful. Again, you gotta. It's a whole
Amen.
package. It's a whole
Amen to that.
package.
Yes. It comes across if you, and I tell this because I work with a lot of women business owners, if you're selling just to make the money, it comes across right away. But if
Hmm.
you're selling because you want to help, because you really care, and your why matches up with their why, then it's going to be a match, and you're going to be able to really help them, and they're going to become loyal to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't love what you're doing, you're gonna, you're never gonna be great in it, and you're probably not gonna last very long.
You're going to have
If you're
burnout.
just doing it for the money, you're
Yeah.
gonna burn out, and
Hmm.
you're gonna be miserable. Really, you're just gonna be unhappy. You're gonna be like I wake up in the morning excited about life. Like
Yes.
I wake up excited to write. It wasn't always like this, guys. I was very, you know, I after just to finish the story since
I
I'm
was going to say,
telling the
because we have
entire
your daughter
story.
come into play too, and I'm curious how that changed
Yeah, so after
your
I
purpose.
finally left my abuser and I got my business going,
Hmm.
I saved my home. I was born again. I was going to church. I was back in the gym. I met another guy. And I always say guys are like the downfall of my existence, but I
These
still
men,
love them.
Candy.
But I still love them, and so you know what, whatever. Um, I met another guy, and I ended up rebounding pretty much with him, and I had a child.
Hmm.
She is in the other room, so I'm not going to talk very loud about it. But we were together for 4 years,
It's a
and
long time.
this is the multimillionaire,
Hmm.
and I was just I didn't want to love again. I had, I was in love. Like I the love that I had for my abuser, it's so strange, I know. But I was in love with him for who he was before he was my abuser. You know what I mean? And so my mind was just messed up, and I just thought, I'll just go be with somebody that just can do whatever I want to do, take me to these places and buy me these things. Who cares? You know, I mean, who cares? Like, who cares? Love sucks anyways was the place that I was in. It was like, I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to ever feel love again. I don't want to be vulnerable. That's how I felt. And I think a lot of women feel that way after we get hurt from
Yes.
somebody, especially if you're leaving an abuser. It's really hard to trust again. And ended up getting pregnant. And then we ended up getting engaged. And then when she was 1, I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is just, I'm not happy. So I left. We never saw him again. Um, it was a very big shock to me. And I never thought in a million years that I would become a full-time single mom. You know, I just kind
Yeah.
of thought like that kind of stuff doesn't happen to people like me, is what I
Was
thought.
it
Like, I don't know, like
all of a sudden he was just completely out of the picture? Was it
gone,
slow? It was just,
gone. I called the wedding off, gone.
wow.
So I obviously made the right decision
Hmm.
calling the wedding off. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
after that happened, I had to move home with my parents. I
Okay.
had no money. I had not been working. I had worked my career for a couple years. Then
Hmm.
when I met him, I stopped working. I had my child. So when I moved home, I had no money. He took our car. He took all my belongings, my clothes. I had nothing. I had a baby, and I was living at home with my parents. And um, it was a really, really hard time in my life. Again,
It's a
except for
huge
now,
change. Yeah.
I have nothing, and I have a baby, and I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like why am I here in this place again? And it I was depressed for a couple months. I slept a lot. Finally, one day, so I had this little message inside me. I
Hmm.
would say I don't hear voices, but I had this like desire, this message, this motivation inside me that was like, nope, I'm sorry, but it's not your time to give up. You got to get back up and you got to fight. And I'm just like, I'm so tired, and I'm
I'm
thinking,
sure. You lived
I'm
like
so,
three lives leading up to this. Anybody be exhausted.
yeah. And I got up and I decided I was fighting with the government at this point to try to get some money. But at some point, I just decided I don't want the government's money. I'm not going to fight him. I'm not going to chase him. I'm not going to chase somebody that might, vindictively try to take my child. And I thought, God, I'm just done and I'm going to do this on my own. And I had a long talk with God and I said, I need your help. And I said, but I don't, and I again went back strong into my faith because I had nothing else to hold on to, and it was the only thing that I knew that would bring me peace. See, my faith gives me peace. People might say, well, God's not real. Okay, maybe he's not if you don't think so. I mean, I know he's real, but I can't explain it to anybody else. All I know is that I have a, a crazy calmness, peace that comes over me whenever I am
Hmm.
really deep in my faith, whenever I am in reading the word, or whenever I am living the life that I'm supposed to live. I have this peace and this calmness come over me. And so I gravitated towards it. And at this time, I was in a Bible study group, and these girls suggested that I read this book called The New Rules of Love, Sex, and Dating by Andy Stanley. And
Oh,
so I read it. Um, it gives you a challenge to not date anybody for a year. Nothing, nothing. And I was like, I had just back to back 8 years relationships with
yeah.
two assholes. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to go out there and I'm ready to just get it on, right? So I was going to get over them by just getting under somebody else, right? What I was thinking. But I guess, it was like there was another plan for my life. And so I decided, okay, fine, I'm going to do the challenge. I'm not going to date anybody for a year. I'm not going to do anything for a year. Girl, I took off a year and a half, no dating, no sex, nothing. I focused on I call them the F words, minus the fun one. Faith, family, fitness, and finances. And
There you go.
so I focused on all of those things. And at the time, my two dads were telling me to go get a real job. Again, go get a job with benefits to take care of your child. They're always trying to tell me to go get a real job.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, this is a real job. I make money and I buy stuff with it, right? It's like I have insurance. I'm pretty sure it's a real job, but they're corporate Americans. They wanted me to have security and
That's
stability.
what's familiar to them. That's what's
And I'm like,
comfortable.
I can't even get a real job. Like, I don't even have a college degree. I might have a record. Like, I can't even get a real job. Right. Um, so anyway, so I focused on all this stuff, and within a matter of 9 months, I had completed a short sale. I had to go rent a car to drive 4 hours round trip to get to Atlanta because I was living with my parents outside of Atlanta. So I
Mhm.
drove 4 hours round trip 2-3 days a week just to get there and back, on top of all of the other stuff I was doing, driving around looking for properties,
Yeah.
trying to get my real estate investing career going again. I'd gotten this home under contract, and the lady had $1 million plus home. She's next door neighbors to Missy Elliott, the rapper here in Atlanta. And I completed it in 9 months. And in 9 months, I closed one deal and I made $75,000 off of this one deal, off of this $1 million short sale. And at that time, I was like, wow, like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm back. I just made
So it must felt good.
$75,000.
Kind of like
Right.
the pressure.
The pressure was off. I was able to buy my daughter and I a car, and this had been 9 months
Mhm.
of living at home with my parents, not having anything. Like, if it weren't for them, probably would have been on the streets, because they gave us food and shelter, right? They didn't have money to give us, but they gave us food and shelter, and that's what I took, right?
Yeah.
And so after that, I ended up finding another home and put it under contract. And I ended up doing a creative financing strategy where I was able to put the home under contract as a subject to deal. The lady was in pre-foreclosure and bankruptcy. I had taken some of the money that I had made from this $75,000 and caught up her payments, and negotiated a way for me to buy this house without having to get an actual loan. And this was, again, something I learned as a real estate investor. And so I put it under
Wow.
contract,
Yeah.
bought it. She deeded me her property. I didn't have to go through the lenders. I had put the 12,000 down. Then I had put another 25,000 into it to be able to live in it, because it smelled like animal urine. It was really bad. Obviously it's like these people that are usually interested in certain things like this, like, you don't just get like a brand new home. You gotta put your equity into it, right? Your sweat equity. And so um, within 1 year, I had bought us a house, renovated it. We had moved in. I'd closed that big deal, and then I had another home under contract in the same neighborhood that I ended up making like $70,000 on. And I tell you the money part because, again, I don't have a college degree. I had nothing. This is
Yeah.
what real estate investing was affording me. It was a vehicle for my life, right? A
Mhm.
vehicle to get out of the places where I was. But that whole time I was focusing on my faith, and I was not dating women. I was not dating. I was not filling my life with empty company, you know? Right? We do that.
Yes.
So I was focusing on my kid, my faith, and my business, and my fitness. And that was within a year that we got out of moving home with my parents, and now my house was, I was back in line. I was back on my feet again. Everything was great. Everything was great for a year and a half. um,
Why are you laughing, Candy? What's coming up next?
we moved into the house in 2012,
Yeah.
and everything was great. I had 5 projects now going on.
Wow.
2014, I had done probably 20.
Mhm.
2012, yeah, about 20
That's a
projects
lot.
between the
Wow.
2 years.
Yeah.
At the time, I had 5 going on. 2014, I had 5 projects going on July 7th. It was my birthday.
Mhm.
And my daughter and I survived a massive house fire on that day. That our house burnt down. Everything we owned
Oh my
burned to the
gosh.
ground. We were home. Um, it
And you
was,
made it out okay?
we made it out. Me, my daughter, my dog. It was, like I said, it was my birthday. Everything was going great. Everything was amazing. I'm back on my feet. I'm kicking ass in business.
Jeez.
And the house caught on fire. And I literally, it happened so fast. I tried to put it out. The dryer caught on fire. It wouldn't
Oh
go out.
gosh.
Um, I ran, got my daughter. We ran out of the house. Within a matter of minutes, the alarm company had called the fire company, and I guess within 10 minutes, it took them a long time to get there. The street was just lined with fire trucks. I was
Jeez.
standing outside watching everything that I own burn to the ground again. And I was in shock. I was like,
Of course.
what is going on? I mean, my car that I had bought that I was so proud of because I didn't have a car for almost like a year was burning in the fire because they couldn't get the fire out. I'm like, oh my gosh,
That's
like
insane.
this is craziness.
Wow.
And so again, I had to start over. This was in 2014. Um, and I kept thinking, why is this happening to me? Like what? I kept thinking, why is this happening to me? But at the same time, I had to focus that, you know, I was, even though I became a single mom, I focused on the fact that I still had my daughter. Like everything was taken from me, but I still had my daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
I still, that was all that mattered.
Yeah.
All the materialistic stuff I could
Mm-hmm.
make back. When my house burned down, yes, I was in shock, and it was just craziness. Uh, but at the end of the day, it was like, I still have my daughter. It's, I had to focus on the fact that I still had the only thing that really mattered to me, right? And my daughter, my faith, and my health, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was a series of rebuilding. I was going through anxiety attacks, as you can imagine.
Sure.
Um, everything that I owned burnt down, and my backup drive was on my desk, and it burnt down too. So I was working on 5 projects at that time. What that means is I had all of my designs, my colors, my tiles, my paints,
Oh.
the checkbooks, my license, my credit cards, my plans, my contact information, my phone numbers,
I'm
like
gonna have an anxiety attack thinking about that. Wow.
everything
All
was
of
gone,
those things.
gone. And at this time, I'm doing 5 projects, and the guys, yeah, they were glad I made it out alive, but they want their money.
Yeah.
If I don't pay them their money, they're going to go somewhere else. And if they go somewhere else, any investor, knows once you lose guys, you're good luck. You're out. Like you're out. You got to keep the project going. I mean, this is
Yeah.
part of the business. And so, again, I had to dig deep and go back in and go real deep in my faith, because I couldn't breathe. I would literally drive to the urgent care and just sit outside and just be like, I'm gonna probably die. At least I'll just open the door and fall out into the parking lot if I'm gonna have a heart attack. Because I would just go up there all the time and just be like, I'm probably gonna die. I would feel like I was having strokes in my mouth. I would feel like I couldn't breathe. I would feel like I couldn't talk. I was in so much stress because I had all this stuff going on, and now everything I own is gone, and now I'm trying to keep all these projects going. And I ended up finishing all the projects within a matter of a year. um, Ended up making all the money back that my partners had put in, plus the profits. And ended up learning a lot during that time, because I had to fire 3 different contractors, which was really, really tough.
Yeah, I'm
I had
sure.
to roll up my sleeves and get dirty and become the project manager and start kicking everybody's ass at this time, because I realized that I couldn't count on anybody else to run the projects for me, because they just kept doing me wrong. And
Hmm.
the construction industry has a lot of, I always say this, like my job title is like, I babysit grown men. Like that's what I think. I
Yes.
babysit grown men in construction. And I'm like, they're like men, but like a different um, type of man. Like and they're not all bad, but there's a lot of pretty shady ones, right? Like that. I'm in the construction industry, and I have a past. I have a criminal record. They do too, by the way, right? I'm just making jokes, but I'm being serious. Like, it's
Yeah.
not an easy industry to run guys like that. And being a woman in this industry, which is a male dominated industry, you got to
Yes.
pay your dues. And so I ended up getting those done. And from there, I just kept working and working and staying focused and not dating. I know women don't want to hear that, but I couldn't run my businesses and take care of my daughter full time and take care of my mental health and my physical health and throw another person in there. I've tried. I'm open to it. Don't get me wrong. God will bring them when it's my time. But I didn't date. I didn't date again. I was just doing all this stuff and trying again. My house just burnt down. I'm clearly in no mental state to date at this point again, right? And so people ask me, why are you single? And I'm like, oh, that's a long story.
Read my book. Now you'll know.
So,
But Candy,
uh,
what is that driving force that made you keep getting back up after all these times?
well, after my daughter was born, it was my daughter.
Got her.
100% my daughter. My daughter made my life so much better. I should have been dating the way that I date or don't date with my daughter in my life. If I do date somebody, I'm dating somebody that I know is in line with my values, my morals.
Yes.
But as far as like before she was born, I don't know. I think I just knew that I didn't want to settle for a life that I would not be in control of. I wanted to make my own life, my whole life, even from when I was in high school. I was always trying to work and make money and do my own thing. And I never wanted to be told what to do. I hated authority. I hated being controlled by my abuser. I hated being controlled by my other ex with all of the money. I hated all of that. And I just wanted to be able to provide a life for me. But then when my daughter came along, to provide a life for my daughter that I wouldn't have to rely on anybody else to do it for me. I didn't want to have to rely on anybody. And so I just decided that that was going to be my job pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
even with her, she gives me a driving force, but even before her, that I just didn't want to be controlled by other people and be told what to do, what time I had to show up, what I had to do, like
yeah.
that. I didn't have any creativity to do the things that I wanted to do, or like, I don't know. I just,
It's
yeah.
it's very similar. My second book is about retiring on your own terms, but really living life on your own terms. Because I think we're so trained to, I went to Catholic school and it's like, okay, you sit there, you don't talk unless you're told to talk, you
Mm-hmm.
don't act out, just sit there and be the pretty little quiet girl,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And then that just starts the I need to do everything according to what everybody tells me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started in my industry too. I'm like, I'll just do what everyone tells me to do, what's expected of me. And I hated it. And like you, I was so unhappy that there was some sort of force, driving force to get me to change it. So I was just curious. And when you say that, it's true.
Yeah.
It's finding ways to live on your own terms and recreating rules that work with who you are so that you can be yourself, you can be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
I think, sorry, go ahead.
just to give that to your daughter and then to pass it on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's like, if I look back, I think that being arrested was a blessing in disguise. I wouldn't change my life for anything at this point. Like, I really wouldn't. But because of my record, it made me figure out a way to make money
Hmm.
outside of like what the norm is. Because, and I talk about this a lot to people that are have been maybe incarcerated or are incarcerated, or women that don't have, I speak a lot to women because I am a woman, but I love
Yeah.
speaking to the men too. But women that are afraid to leave a bad relationship because of finances, right? Like, there's so
Yes.
many things that we can do. I think it's just all about, really, what I've really learned is, like, if you're passionate about what you do, you can find a way to make money in it.
Hmm.
And I feel like you're right. We are told to go to school, graduate, get a good job, get married, have a kid. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like my sister did it, my brother did it. That's great. Those are my brother didn't actually go to college, but like they did they did the thing is like, find somebody, get married, have the kids. And my sister went to college, but it's like she never did anything with her degree. She got the degree and she never did anything with it because she wasn't passionate about it. Like she was doing it because that's what she was told to do. And there's nothing wrong with college. I don't really, I wouldn't make my daughter go to college unless she wanted to be a doctor or like, she just talked about being a marine biologist or something where you actually need a college degree. But if, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel so many people get jobs and do things for the money. And I never wanted to be a slave to that kind of
Mm-hmm.
living. I wanted to do something that excited me, that that I that I felt that like I that gave me a respect for myself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you just take a job for somebody else, you don't really have the respect for yourself because you're just maybe just kind of doing something to make that money. It's like I say, not I can relate to people. Not everybody danced like me, but there's a whole bunch of people out there working in a job that they hate for the money. And I did the same thing. I just took my clothes off,
They're
you know?
handcuffed to that paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're afraid to leave because of the security. And
Yes.
I don't want to live in fear. I think that's what it was. Like, I don't want to live in fear. I realize that life is short, and I realize that life is so short right now and everything that we're going through. And like, that's one of the reasons why I ended up moving my daughter and I to Barcelona, Spain in 2019. Um, I just thought, I want to take a break from doing the everyday life. Now, I think at some point in my life, like I'm still a real estate investor. I have properties, they're fully furnished rentals. I don't do the everyday flipping like I did for over 10 years because I don't enjoy it anymore. And I started to feel, okay, in 2018, I sold the biggest project in my career. I built a $2.75 million home, $2,750,000 home. And it was 10,000 square feet. It took 2 years
It's
out of my
huge.
life. We made a lot of money. And I'm talking a lot of money. Um, and after I was done with that, I was like, I'm not happy anymore. I'm like, this is great. I've made
Mm-hmm.
all this money. And again, here I am. I'm making all this money and I'm like, but I'm not happy. And I'm thinking, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I just not being grateful? I should be so happy. Like I've made it. After the fire, I ended up building my daughter and I a brand new home as well, 5,000 square foot home. And it's gorgeous. It's one of the best neighborhoods in town. And we ended up being able to keep it. Um, Through the grace of God, I was able to keep it. So here I am in my 30s. I got this brand new $1 million home. I just sold a $2.75 million home. I'm looking at everything and I'm going, only, this is why I tell people, like, there's no way I would be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my faith. Like, statistics are not in my favor for incarceration or being a single mom or not having a college degree. Like those things are being abused. Like they're not statistically favorable for people that go through these things. The only way that I'm been able to continue to go through these things is because of my faith that gave me the strength to go through these things, right? And so I listen to my inner being a lot, my inner voice, and it was like, I'm not happy anymore. And so at that time, I decided, it was kind of another story there, but I ended up going over to Europe in 2018. I fell in love with Barcelona. I came home. I had actually been asked to do a film documentary in France. Some guy found me on social media. And because I talk about being single, I used to have the single parenting podcast. I don't do that anymore, but
Okay, very cool.
right.
Awesome.
Anyway, so I ended up going over there and it was amazing. I had never traveled outside of the country by myself. I went to Barcelona for like a week and then I did this film documentary, met all these amazing coaches. And when I came home, I thought, you know what? I'm going to move to Barcelona, Spain. I'm going to move there and I'm going to write books. I was like, I'm going to eat, pray, love it up, right? I'm going to go find myself. You
There
know, I'm
you
going to take
go.
my daughter. We're going to learn Spanish. I'm going to write books. It's going to be amazing. It took me a year to get everything in order to move there. We finally moved there in 2019.
Okay.
And I went there and I wrote a couple books. One of them is getting ready to be published. And we did learn Spanish. She is in a concertada. And I did a lot of eating and praying, not a lot of loving. but but yeah, that's, and so now we're back because of Corona. Unfortunately, in March, I made the decision to come home because I didn't want to get stuck in Europe. But I wasn't planning on coming home yet. But now we're back, and
Hmm.
that's pretty much our story.
And now you're getting ready for your book. We're going to wrap this up here. What is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
um, I don't know what I want my legacy to be. I know that I want to help people to overcome shame. I want to help people to let go of feeling that just because they made bad decisions in their past doesn't make them a bad person now.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are hiding who they are out of fear of people might find out or have skeletons in their closet. I also feel that living in shame prevents people from going after the life that they really want because, again, they don't feel like they deserve it.
Hmm.
And I had to really get past that mindset to understand that I did deserve a good life and I do deserve a good man, right? I
Yeah.
do deserve good things. Just because I made bad decisions in my past doesn't make me a bad person. And so I really think that, you know what, being successful and making money is great, but it all starts with really just loving yourself and accepting yourself and forgiving yourself for things that you did in your younger years. And so my desire is to help people just find true happiness and find that peace. And then from there, they'll be happy doing whatever they do in their life. They'll not care about everything so much. They won't care about what people think of them and,
Yeah.
you know, how much money are they making. They'll really figure out what makes them happy and, you know, live a happy life.
It's
That's what I
beautiful.
want.
You're like a bright light shining for them of hope and peace and a way to move forward, let the past go, forgive themselves,
Hmm. Yeah,
and know they deserve more. Right? My first book, it's the tagline is raise your self-worth to raise your net worth. So I think once you start believing in yourself, the money follows. But when you chase the
absolutely.
money first, it's never going to be enough.
Right. What's that saying? Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, yes, that's hanging up in my office.
Yeah. It's true. I didn't really understand it until I was older, but now I understand it completely.
Awesome. And
Completely.
what is the title of your book?
They tried to break me.
They tried to break you. Amazing.
Hmm.
I cannot
Yeah.
wait to get this book and read about it, put up a book review and everything.
Thank you.
Any
I
last
can't wait to
thought
hear. Good
before we end
thoughts.
this?
um, I don't really, I think I've talked a lot. I think I've said everything I can say. Um, I just, yeah, I hope and pray for everybody to find that true happiness and that true peace that we all have deep down inside of us.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a next break. There's going to be, no matter what, like you've proved it here. Doesn't matter how many times you fall down, there is a next step for you, a next place to move forward to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Adversity never stops. So I continue to write books. I write about my past. I write about my future. I have some other books I've been working on about abuse. And I think all it is like I just want to share the stories that people never want to talk about because they're embarrassing and they're shameful. And I want to bring it to light. And I just want people to know that they're not alone. They're
Yes.
not alone. They can do this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Candi.
Okay. Thank you.